Hey there, this is a recap of our second session of our Dragon Slayer Barrowmaze Mega Dungeon adventure. For this session here, I actually had three players. We saw the return of Squire Pendrake, the Halfling Rogue Garrin, and we had the addition of the human monk Avelyn, played by my buddy Dave. Started off in Helix, the village of Helix. And Pendrake, they decided they needed some more muscle or some more help, so he goes to the mercenary guild and meets with a man named Osen that runs it, and he hires Dolm, who is a human man at arms, and rolled him up again on the Meat Shield website, and he had incense as an interesting item of note, so he ended up becoming like a holy roller, like with some quick improvisation of role play with him. That was the route I took, and it was kind of funny because with Brother Avelyn being a who is introduced shortly thereafter, he's also a follower of Saint Yig, like Squire Pendrake. So I was kind of dubbing the group the Holy Rollers because they had like 3 religious people in it. No offense to any religious people out there. It's just what we came up with. I don't know if that's going to stick or not for reasons that'll show up later. Outside the mercenary guild, Pendrake bumped into Avelyn, who was wandering into Helix, and they end up going to the Brazen Strumpet because they want to. Squire Pendrake wants to go back into the Barrowmoor and explore some more Barrowmounds. He's got to find Garrin, who he's assuming is probably up to no good, but Garrin keeps that out of Squire Pendrake's sight because he knows the paladin would not appreciate it. They actually did, before they went to the Brazen Strumpet, they went to the shrine of Saint Yig, and there they met one of the clerics. There is a young cleric, he's a half-orc named Gamdar. They met him, talked with him a bit. I think they might have done some blessing and some tithing. I'm pretty sure they did that. And then they were off to the Brazen Strumpet. They heard, we rolled for rumors. Brother Avelyn, he's actually not a brother per the titles in the Dragon Slayer book, but that's a throwback to some Salvatore novels from a long time ago. They got rumors, so they heard the same rumor again about the tomb robbers in the Silver Chalice, and that really piqued their interest. Like I know Garrin, the halfling rogue, kind of wants to track them down and find out what that's all about, and maybe get his hands on it, because they keep hearing that it's worth 666 silver pieces. So they were very interested in that. One of the things that they did learn about, they inquired about the tomb robbers, and they believe that they operate out of another village called Bogtown, which is about 30 miles or so, I think, from where Helix is located. What else? They learned something about the tablets. They didn't really get a lot of information on these tablets. I got my notes, the tablet of the chosen. But they didn't really investigate that too much. And before too long, they traveled into the Barrowmoor. Now, what you'll see here in the video is some covered up terrain and a battle mat. There's a reason for that, is because I thought, like, because they'd gone in a certain direction the last time they went in, I'm like, well, maybe they'll just keep going in that direction. So I built terrain for the barrow mounds that they would probably come across if they went in repeated their direction. Well, in true player fashion style, they went in the opposite direction. So they went more eastward, and they ended up coming across. I think there was one barrow that they made entry to. They had one of them. I don't think there was no like combat or anything. They just got into it and looted it. Went on to the next one, which they found, but they had to uncover. So they burned a lot of time because they actually had to dig and to reveal the entrance. And There's rules for that in there. It takes 3d4 plus 4 hours to dig up a mound entrance. So that chewed up a lot of time because there was only really one person digging. One of their henchmen, a couple of the henchmen, I think, take turns, but with only one person digging, it doesn't shave any time off. So it took a long time. Like, they were digging for most of the day. They were really burning up their daylight. They did actually burn up their daylight. They dug out this barrow, went in. It was a family barrow, which is this very poorly drawn one over there with my dying wet erase marker. And it was filled with giant centipedes. They made really quick work of the centipedes, looted it, and there was some discussion from Avelyn whether they should be doing this or not. And then eventually it was just explained that, like, this is kind of an accepted practice. It's almost, I explained it as, in my head, it's like the gold rush. Like, this is how money comes into town. Like, other than that, the town subsides on selling peat moss and some other stuff. So adventurers frequenting Helix bring in money to the town, and they bring back money to the town because they go into the village of Helix afterwards and they spend their gold. So it's everybody is kind of okay with it. After this one, they did return to Helix because they knew they had burned up most of their day. They had to travel back, and it took like 13 hours to dig out the mound because there's only one of them digging. So they should probably pay that henchman that they have more money because he worked his butt off that day. They returned the next day. Nobody even took damage in that combat. It was really pretty simple. They return the next day, and they keep going in that same eastwardly direction. And they come across, one of the things they spot is this large standing stone, and it's got old runes carved in there. A lot of them are faded, but the Pendrake and Avelyn, because of their religious background, they recognize it as a standing stone dedicated to the god Nurgle, and he's or evil god. He's the god of death or something, as it's written up in the Barrowmaze. So they recognize that, and they realize that's probably not good. And then from there, they keep looking around, and through the fog that cremates through the Barrowmaze, they see a very large mound, and they go to that one and make entry. It actually, they don't even have, it's already been broken into. So they go in. First layer, this one chamber is cleaned out, but what there is in the center of the floor, there's a hole with old rope and pulley system above it going down below about 35 feet to another chamber. And they end up all going down there eventually and start exploring, and quickly they soon learn that this is much bigger than anything they've been into. They keep pushing on. One of the first rooms they come to a door. They get the door open. They check for traps. They don't find any. Avelyn and Dome. Dome is the new hireling that they just got. Go into this room, and as soon as they do, they trip a trap, and a stone slab comes down and it separates them from the rest of the party. When that happens, the second door in the room, right across from where they entered, opens, and a stream of skeletons came out. So a couple things happened in this fight. Is neither Avelyn nor Dome were carrying an active light source. That's Barrowmoor's job. He's a torchbearer. That's all he does. He has a dagger, I think, to defend himself, like in the worst case scenario. But his job is just run around with the party, hold the torch. So they don't have to bother with it. So they're stuck in the darkness. So they got a glimpse of these skeletons coming before the lights went out in the room. So they had to... Avelyn orders... No, it wasn't Avelyn. I'm sorry. It was... back up. It was Pendrake and Dome go in. And Dome was Pendrake's hireling. They go in their trap. He orders Dome, get a torch going, because he's got equipment, get a torch going. So and the fighting starts, and their party on the outside is kind of at a loss what to do. They eventually use a crowbar and pry up the slab a little bit, enough to get a stone under it there, which Mound, the dwarf hireling they have, he runs back to the first room they came into, when they dropped down the rope, which had some rubble because part of the wall was collapsed. He grabs a rather larger size rock, and they're able to wedge it on the door, but not enough so everybody can get under there. So Garrin, because the halfling, he can fit under there, and Zippy the war dog can fit under there. So they go in and they help out in this battle, and a little bit of light spills under there too. Helps them out in that battle. Dome is actually killed. He had a whopping 2 hit points, so he didn't last very long. He gets killed, but they ultimately defeat the skeletons. And they find it's pretty much a dry hole. There's like no treasure or anything like that. They go into the following room. There's nothing there. They eventually get the door open. What I explained to them later was there was no way inside the room to open that door, but there was a panel in the floor outside the door that if they'd searched out there, they likely would have found it and they could have opened the door. So hopefully as we progress, like these rooms like this and traps and stuff will start getting them a little bit even more inquisitive about their surroundings. And they're pretty diligent now. Like Pendrake uses his detect evil a lot, which is good because it can sometimes give them a little bit of advance warning that something's coming. So they, I think they strip Dome of his meager gear and off they go. They continue to explore this. They find a couple other rooms. They find one room that's got a table with 3 skulls on it, which kind of perplexes them. They start searching that room and carefully like moving the skulls. Nothing happens. And then I think it was Pendrake started, or somebody started tapping on the wall. I think it was, might have been Pendrake, might have been Avelyn. I don't remember. But they end up ultimately finding a secret door. And they open up that door, and it partially opens, and it's blocked. And they look, and there's a body, an old corpse behind it. And it turns out to be some adventurer that died there. And they get a few things off of him. I think they get some little bit of loot. And then they head back out, and they keep searching. And they end up going, and they find another room kind of accidentally because the wall had been broken out into the hallway they were in. Room appears to be empty. They don't go in there. They keep going straight down this hall. And eventually come to a room that is filled with burial alcoves. And in the center of the room is a statue of a demon, which interests Pendrake quite a bit. And he takes to destroying it. So he's beating on it with the sledgehammer while the rest of the party, or Garrin and Avelyn, and I think one of the henchmen, are searching like the burial alcoves, which also takes time because there's a lot of them. And they do find loot in there, but while they're doing that, actually been rolling throughout this whole thing, and finally come up with a random encounter, and they came across, a band of fellow tomb robbers came across them, and they try to just negotiate. The tomb robbers try to negotiate, like, hey, just give us our stuff, give us your stuff, and then we'll just let you guys go. And of course the party's like, yeah, that's not happening. So a fight ensues. Pendrake takes some damage. I think he'd taken some damage maybe in the skeleton fight too. I think. I don't remember. But he took some damage. Like I remember Dan, who plays Pendrake, afterwards talking about it was another close one. Like, and I know in the Tomb Robber fight, I think he took a pretty good hit. But didn't go down. Ultimately, they win. I think the morale of the Tomb Robbers finally broke, but they finished off the last guy that was trying to run away. I think he got, maybe Garrin shot him in the back or hit him in the back. I don't remember the fine details of it. It was a few days ago. It was last Friday. But they were ultimately successful, but they're like, hey, we finished searching, destroy the statue, and like, we got to get out of here. This, we're pretty banged up. Everybody, I think Avelyn took some hits. Pretty cool to see the monk in action. He's playing a monk. We hadn't seen that yet. And they have a neat ability where they can avoid one attack, I guess, per combat. And Dave made good use of that to avoid one of the hits he would have taken. So that was really good. Kind of like all the classes we've seen so far. I've seen Thief, and Paladin, and the Monk. Hopefully down the road we'll get to see some others. But it was a fun session. They end up returning to Helix with no problems, no random encounters on the way back. So we'll pick it up again, hopefully pretty soon. I might have another player joining. Guy I gamed with a long time ago reached out to me and was interested in playing it. So hopefully we'll see that down the road. But yeah, that was a real good session. A little impromptu because they zigged when I thought they were going to zag, and we wound up on the battle mat. From a game master's perspective, especially one that uses a lot of miniatures and terrain, whoops, I don't care when they do that. Some people get locked into, especially I think newer game masters, they'll get locked into whatever they have to prepare, and I actually like it when they go off script's the wrong word, off what I think they're going to do. Like when they go in a totally different direction, I really enjoy it because stuff comes from it that I didn't plan on. Like I had not intended for them to actually enter the Barrowmaze itself. Like that's what they kind of figure out that they're in. I thought that would be a few more sessions, maybe even a level up. They would go there, so or find it, but they found it on their own. They went down, they explored it to the point where they got into where they knew they probably shouldn't go any further, and they got out successfully. So that was a great job on their part. So I don't care. Like I've literally had tables filled with terrain, and the party's gone in the opposite direction, and that's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. I'll either will use it next time or it doesn't get used. I've had that happen too. Just the way it is. I never railroad my players into getting into whatever I build. It doesn't. That's not fun to me. I'd rather see them go off on a different direction and come up with something cool, like I said. And finding the Barrowmaze was very unexpected and cool though, because now it's introduced into the game, and I know like Dan has already talked to me about like trying to do his character, doing more research and stuff next session to find out more about what's going on, and maybe with that, or maybe even the different factions and stuff like the God Nurgle and stuff. So I think that's cool. That'll lead to some cool, fun role-playing sessions, not just crawling around the dungeon, which has also proven to be pretty fun. Yeah, so that was a session. Like I said, hopefully we'll have another one soon. I got a Castles and Crusades session coming up, which I'm prepping for, and even another Vaesen session. So get some work to do. So, but I appreciate everybody watching, and catch you at the next one.